Old Mr. Marketer had a consumer, E-I-E-I-O, and on this consumer they had an age, E-I-E-I-O, with an old person over there, and a young person over there, and a teenager there, and a adolescent over there. Old Mr. Marketer had a consumer, E-I-E-I-O, and on this consumer they had an income, E-I-E-I-O, with a rich person there and a poor person there, and someone who can't afford something there, and someone who can afford something there. Old Mr. Marketer had a consumer, E-I-E-I-O. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see today, we are going to take a look at consumers and profile them. We're going to style and profile. We're going to really try and identify what a consumer profile is and their demographics, and that's the theme of today. Okay, so first off, what are we going to take a look at? Well, we are going to identify what is a consumer profile. We're going to really take a look at what this means for us as marketers, and then we're going to break it down into demographics, and from there, age, gender, family life cycle, income level, and ethnicity and culture. So, you see three pictures of people in front of you. How do we tell them apart? Well, this is the main objective of consumer profiles. Everyone has a unique set of physical features, personality, values, beliefs, geographic location, and history. All of these differences you see in the people before you, and these differences are demonstrated every day, either by the decisions that these people or yourself make, or the decisions that are made about him or her. Often these decisions involve buying behavior, and thus we as marketers need to be concerned about this. Consumer profiles are created for people most likely to be attracted to a specific product. From there, marketers then attempt to combine consumers into cohorts, or groups that share common characteristics and buying habits. Each identified group of consumers with common characteristics and buying habits is called a consumer segment. And we categorize these potential consumers in a way that enables us as marketers to direct our efforts towards a target market, so a specific group of consumers. We are not concerned with marketing towards everyone. We need to target a specific set of consumers who are going to buy our products. Now, this specific target can fall into a primary or a secondary market. The primary market are those consumers that are most likely to buy our product. The secondary market are those consumers who are occasional users of our product or purchasers of our product. Companies therefore direct most of their marketing efforts towards the primary market. So taking a look at these consumers in front of you, how do we tell them apart? Well, you might see that gender can differentiate these consumers. You'll see that ethnicity and culture most likely differentiates them. Income will probably differentiate them. Family life cycle, they probably share this part of it, but they might have different family situations at home. And so these characteristics are what marketers use to differentiate consumers based on demographics. So let's take a look at that now. So demographics is the study of those obvious characteristics that we use as marketers to tell people apart or categorize people. Age, gender, family life cycle, income level, and ethnicity and culture are the obvious characteristics that most marketers use to differentiate consumers. So age is the first demographic characteristic that we're going to take a look at. Marketers use a number of different groupings, but the most common groupings that marketers use are the following. Those people with 0 to 9, 10 to 15, 16 to 19, 20 to 25, 25 to 40, 40 to 55, and then over 55. Why they use these groupings is because those people in these age groups share very similar characteristics, and therefore they are grouped together. We wouldn't group a 6-year-old with a 12-year-old. Those are very different consumers. So the first group of consumers are those aged 0 to 9. We call these people pre-customers. In this market, marketers have a double primary market because this market is composed of the children and the gatekeepers. Gatekeepers are those people who buy products for the children. Therefore, they act as that security person that lets certain products in and doesn't let other products in because they control the flow of products. These are called gatekeepers. Typically, gatekeepers are parents or guardians of some sort. However, children also need to be attracted in this consumer segment because children can influence the gatekeepers. Have you ever gone to your parents and said, "Mommy, Mommy," or "Daddy, Daddy, I really, really want that new flashy bike"? Well, that's your actions as a child influencing a gatekeeper. Okay, so the marketer in this, when they are targeting this segment, must appeal to both the customer, which is the gatekeeper, the person who's buying the product, and consumer, which is a person who is using the product. The next category are those allowance customers. Now, this is the category slightly under you guys, but allowance customers are those group who do not have regular income. Right? They receive money from their parents or guardians, therefore allowances. They don't have a regular income, therefore. Their income is all dependent on whether or not their parent or guardian offers them allowance. However, they are starting to make buying decisions. They're starting to influence some control in the buying process. The gatekeeper is still responsible for the majority of goods and services consumed, but because they have an allowance, these consumers are able to dictate somewhat the types of products and services consumed. Now, this is you guys. This is the youth market, 16 to 19-year-olds. Now, think about your own situation. Do you still rely on your gatekeeper for financial support? I would say most, if not all of you, still do. However, you're starting to earn money from part-time work, and therefore that money becomes your disposable income, and therefore you choose what you want to do with it, right? So you don't have to worry about food, clothing, and shelter, but you are attracted to, I don't know, MP3 tunes from iTunes, electronics, computers, cell phones, all these other gadgets and gizmos, and that your disposable income can be used towards those products. Now, the 20 to 25-year-old market are those consumers who are off to post-secondary, in most cases, post-secondary education. Right? They're beginning to live a single life, a life on their own, and therefore they're starting to make personal decisions for themselves. And these decisions will become habitual. So if you buy a certain brand at this age, most likely you're going to continue buying that brand. And that brand loyalty will stick with these consumers for the rest of their life. This group is an excellent market for a lot of personal care products, for apartment furniture, for cooking equipment, linens, and other products that are required for the single life. I remember when I first moved out of my house, I had to go out and buy all these sorts of these things. I was never interested in these kinds of products before, but because I was living a single life at the time, you all of a sudden become interested in those products, and all of a sudden stores like HomeSense become the most amazing store out there. So 25 to 40-year-olds, these are called the family formation consumers, otherwise known as nesters. Think birds, right? Building a nest for a family. So family nesters or family formation consumers are those who are concerned about the life's major decisions. Now, I don't know if you realize this or not, but this is me, Mr. Roche. I am in this stage. I am this consumer, and I am faced with major life decisions every single day. Right? I'm concerned with my career, marriage, my house, and my child. Concerned in terms of making decisions to benefit those things. Right? So for myself, I have to make these decisions every day, and therefore I'm making purchase decisions every day to improve those situations. So marketers are looking at me to market or advertise furniture or insurance or automobiles or major appliance or any other good or service that would help with this stage of my life. Whereas 40 to 55-year-olds, these people are what we consider established, and therefore we call this consumer cohort the establishment. Right? These people have reached their career plateaus. They've probably earned their maximum salaries by this point, and at this stage, their children are leaving home. I know your parents, when you leave home, they are going to cry. They're going to cry for days. You are going to jump for joy, but they're going to cry. However, the one thing that they are going to like is the disposable income. It's going to go up because you guys are not reaching into their pockets and getting their wallets and checkbooks or credit cards and spending all of their money. So for this market, they are looking at quality products, luxury goods, vacation packages, and investments. They're looking to spend this disposable income. And once they've spent it all and their children have moved on and they've hit 55 or over, they have now entered the mature market. For Canadians, this is the fastest growing market in Canada. Why? It's what we like to call the baby boom generation, right? These were the people who were born between 1946 and 63 after World War II, right? And if you remember back to grade 9 geography, we talked about this. Husbands came back from the war and missed their wives and made a lot of babies. So this generation has now grown up, and they're now 55 and plus, and they fall in the mature market. Right? So they have a very high disposable income. Their pension plans are very well off. They have made a lot of personal investments, and they're starting to retire early and spending their money on themselves. They're not concerned necessarily with their children all the time. However, we're starting to see a shift here that children are becoming dependent for much longer, and therefore people who are in 55 plus are actually starting to still provide for their adult children. However, the 55 plus, the mature market, they're realizing many of their goals that a career and a family placed on hold, and they're starting to buy new homes. They're starting to travel. They're starting to just spend money on themselves. So the next part of identifying a consumer's demographics is to identify their gender. Gender, as we know, is male and female. Males purchase various products that are specifically catered towards them. However, if you look around in the market, you'll find very few products that are catered specifically towards male. However, if you look into the market, you'll see a ton of products catered towards females. However, one thing that we're seeing more and more of today is that products typically catered towards one gender are being used by the opposite gender. Right? No longer are products specifically male or specifically female. We're starting to see females engage in activities and sports and groups and buying products that were typically purchased by males and vice versa. So this is a changing gender role. Right? At one time, women did all the family grocery shopping and men would purchase the car. This is no longer the case. And so marketers need to be aware of this. They need to market their products to both genders in a lot of cases. The next part of identifying a consumer's demographics is to look at the family life cycle. The family life cycle is basically identifying which stage of family formation is a consumer currently in. Do they have young children? Are they a young couple without children? Do they have lots of children? Do they have they had children move out of their house? Right? All of these are stages of the family life cycle. And because of each of these stages are different, consumers in each of these stages have different wants and needs and purchasing patterns. Businesses will include this demographic characteristic in their consumer profile because they're trying to figure out who's going to buy what for whom. See, for instance, in the blended family with grandparents, you have two sets of grandparents buying products for both the parents and the children, and therefore marketers need to identify this and need to be aware of this. Right? So businesses can sell its product to or service to various family life cycle groups, but it will tailor its marketing efforts to match the needs of each one. Consumers can also be grouped by how much money they earn or how much money they have. Right? So businesses will look at consumer profiles and identifying how much money their target market have. Because if they have a target market that has very little disposable income, there's very little sense in pricing your product so high. Whereas if you have a target market with a lot of money, a lot of disposable income, then you can sell your products for much higher prices. The affluent or upper income group is willing and able to buy items that the middle income group cannot afford. And vice versa. The middle income group will buy products or services typically that the affluent income group wouldn't buy. Right? Someone who's in the affluent income group most likely are not going to buy a Toyota Prius, let's say. And someone who's in the middle income group is probably not going to buy a Mercedes or a Lamborghini or any of those other kinds of cars. So income level really determines which products they're buying and really for marketers how they can set their prices. And the last part of identifying a consumer demographic is ethnicity and culture. Marketers really need to be aware about all the cultural differences. When we're looking at Canada, this is even more important. Canada has such a mix of cultures all around our country, especially in the Greater Toronto area. And so when you're marketing products to places in Canada, you really need to be aware of all the different cultures that exist. Right? Various different cultures have various different preferences, therefore various different purchasing patterns, and therefore they will purchase various different products. And advertisers need to be aware of this as well because what they put in advertisements may offend certain cultures. So understanding ethnicity and culture and all the differences that exist therein is very important for marketing. So putting this all together, The idea here is that every single person has slightly different demographic characteristics. However, we can group them together. And if I were to group you guys together, you would be one consumer segment, the teenage market. However, if we look at each of you individually, we will find various differences as far as gender for one, family life cycle, income, ethnicity, and culture. And so as marketers, we have to be aware of this. We have to look at various different target markets differently and cater to those target markets specifically. Okay, that's it. That's all. That's everything. Make sure you have your notes completed, and we'll see you tomorrow.